Iran will pay for it. That's what we're hearing for 24 hours now since the attack has actually happened. And it's more than, I think it's about 30 hours since we knew the attack on Israel was going to happen. And we've heard a lot of people saying that Iran will pay for this. And we're waiting. We're waiting. We're still waiting, and I'm asking myself, how long are we going to wait? Today we're going to discuss um, the attack that again the attack that came on Israel. A bit more about the updated numbers, as well as the response, or rather non-response, that we've seen so far. Joining me today is James. Welcome to the Daily Objective. Hey James, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm getting impatient, but I'm doing okay. I've there's no question that Israel must respond, has to. I mean, there's no such thing as self-defense if Israel doesn't. It is insufficient to say, "Oh, it failed." Boy, there were 181 ballistic missiles shot at Israel, twice the number of precision ballistic missiles that were fired back in April when they fired hundreds of missiles and drones and rockets at Israel. And because Israel has the most amazing defensive missile system on the planet, this Arrow system that really does protect them from most of the missiles, it didn't stop all of the 180 ballistic missiles. There were craters on the ground from missiles that landed in Israel. And I know that they prioritize the missiles that they shoot down. And so it is likely that the ones that are going to do the least damage are the ones that get through. But missiles got through and created craters on the ground. And yes, they not only hit Israel, they hit the West Bank. And the guy who died so far, the one death is a Palestinian. But the point is, this is now the second barrage of attacks from one nation state against another nation state. This is a direct act of war. If the United Nations does not respect Israel's right to hit back hard, and even take out the regime at this point, the UN does not stand for anything except the protection of dictators. And so the fact is the prime minister said, and with some credibility, given Israel's awesome intelligence operations of late, with some credibility, they will suffer. Now, the question is when? When, Israel? I've heard in the media that, well, Israel has to take care of Lebanon first. They have to finish up and we heard word of Israeli IDF casualties now in the invasion of Lebanon. And of course, that's going to happen. My concern is that IDF soldiers will be sacrificed so that civilian casualties and collateral damage in Lebanon is avoided. Israel should not be concerned about that. They should be concerned about the lives of their soldiers above the lives of civilians in Lebanon. Full stop. But I don't think that the same assets are going to be involved at all. After the pager attack, after the walkie-talkie attack, after the initial air bombardments, it is now basically a ground war in Lebanon with some air support, I understand, that will be needed. But the assets that will be deployed in any attack on Iran are different. They would involve Israel's very impressive intelligence service and their capacities, no doubt, but also missiles and fighter jets. Israel has F-15s. Israel has the most sophisticated set of missiles and fighter jets in the region, and it's time for Iran to learn that. It's time for Israel to deploy the kind of assets that are necessary. I can't see Israel. Unfortunately, America will not. I mean, it was an act of war on America too. The first and the second attack on Israel, quite frankly. But of course, the pusillanimous leaders in D.C. are not going to do anything to take out Iran. It's all falling on Israel. But that's unfortunately not going to involve ground troops because Israel can't do that. But what Israel can do is devastate Iran as best they can with missiles, with fighter jets, with their awesome intelligence capacity. And so those are different assets than they're using in Lebanon. So we have every right to be sort of strumming our fingers and tapping our foot. When will the attack happen? My fear is, of course, that as every day passes, international support and acceptance and tolerance of Israel doing anything declines and decreases. Every day that support will decrease politically. But on the other hand, because we're awaiting a U.S. election, America is there is no American presence there. This is the time for Israel to act. The Democrats who are currently in the White House right now can't, for political reasons, be critical of Israel and what it does right now, at least this month. So Israel better get off the stick and do it now, while there's a vacuum of leadership in Washington, and you won't get the grief that you might otherwise get, ceasefire grief from DC that you got, say, right after the pager attack, um, uh, in effect. So we have a right to be impatient. Israel, this is the moment to seize. There are different assets that are going to be used against Iran than what you need to do in Lebanon. And in Lebanon, by the way, don't be so concerned about civilian casualties. Be concerned about IDF soldiers who are already dying, unfortunately, on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, so the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, which me and you have talked, this has been an eventful day because we talked about it yesterday. Because the invasion has only started, I think, on Monday sort of evening when the first forces crossed the border to go into Lebanon. So in just a day, pretty much, or day 1 to 2 days, they've already been. I've seen reported six deaths. Someone in the chat is saying seven, so it might have been updated since, or it might have been corrected. So yeah, just one day, and we already have seven deaths of IDF soldiers. So again, a terrible
Seven
thing
too
to see.
many, seven too many. But they will happen. Even in the most properly fought war, there will be soldier deaths. But let me beg Israel to prioritize the lives of their soldiers um, over even civilian casualties. Take care of the situation from the air insofar as it is possible. I'm not a military expert. I can't tell you whether this set of seven deaths, sad and horrific as it is, was necessary or not. I would just implore Israel to ignore all these calls about civilian casualties and deaths mounting in Lebanon and prioritize the lives of their soldiers above anything else. That's what you must do in war.
Yeah, and as you've mentioned, sort of should Israel focus on Hezbollah or Lebanon first before going into Iran. So if that was the main line, if that was sort of like what we've heard, uh, I could maybe see it again, as you've said, not military experts. So I can say that maybe that's something that must be done. But that's not what we hear. There was a meeting between Netanyahu and many of his cabinet members, and what they came out with was pretty much, yes, we need a response, but we don't know what. Many things were considered from what I've heard. I think, yeah. So, and that was sort of my first big problem, which we also talked about yesterday, is the fact that we already know about it, already know, which means if we know, Iran knows. So it was targeting Iranian oil rigs, which obviously would cripple Iranian's economy. Uh, there were nuclear sites, which makes absolute sense. There was also, so yeah, the cabinet said they will respond militarily, but has not decided how. They've also weighed targeted assassination, attacks on air defenses, but the main sort of thing that came out was that they will coordinate with the US. I believe Netanyahu was supposed to have a meeting with Biden today afternoon. So I'm not sure if that already happened. I haven't seen any reports, anything coming out of yet. Although I've seen one. Let me just quickly look it up. I've seen And I'm not sure who is this. Oh, it's a U.S. Deputy Secretary saying that the Biden administration over the next few days will focus its engagement with the Israelis to try and align its perspective on any potential response to the Iranian attack on Israel. Uh, and I think I've also seen. No, I haven't seen any sort of support for an active attack. So
That's
and
face
we will be talking about the American response on the reality show much more. I want to focus on the Israeli part, as well as there was the vice presidential debate. So we'll cover the some of the parts also on the reality show. Um, so just
But that's
quickly,
just face
yeah.
saving. That's just face saving. America didn't get a heads up on the pager attack. America didn't get a heads up on previous attacks. Israel is doing the leading. You know, when the pager attack came out, Biden says ceasefire, ceasefire. Israel ignores that, does what it does in Lebanon, despite the ceasefire, ceasefire crap coming from President Biden. No, President Biden is being led by Israel right now. And until the election, the Democrats have to take a generally pro-Israel stance. They can't give Israel the grief that I think that many in the Democrat Party in my country would be giving Israel were it not for the upcoming election. That makes this a particularly opportune moment for Israel to act on its own, to coordinate with American leadership. Yeah, it's pure face saving for Mr. Biden, frankly. And he's claiming, oh, yeah, they'll let us know. Israel, you don't owe America anything. They have not been your particular friends right now. This is the time to strike. And whatever Mr. Biden may say, you do what's necessary. Take out those nuclear facilities, for example. It is unthinkable. You'd be doing the whole world a favor and doing the thing that Mr. Biden, of course, I mean, the whole thing is that Mr. Biden wants to kiss Iran's ass so that he can get a nuclear agreement that's never going to stop Iran from getting a nuclear bomb or 15. So, Israel, take it out now. That's the very thing Biden wouldn't want you to do. So, but you coordinate it with Mr. Biden. However much he doesn't want you to do that, you do that. You must. And you'd be doing all of us a favor, whatever Mr. Biden says.
Yeah, just quickly, someone in the chat is saying who is even running the US right now doesn't seem like it's Biden or Harris. Well, it is pretty funny. I think whenever you look at things like this, you always analyze it. Does it make sense what they are doing? And I don't think and I don't mean sense in sort of like what is the right thing to do or what is the proper thing to do. When it comes to politicians, usually what you expect politicians to do is something that would keep them in power. That is sort of an unnecessary, or rather, it's
The unstated premise of all of it,
yeah,
yes.
it has to be because again, a politician has to be popular. A good politician is someone who gets elected. So by that, in a similar way, I think just think about it. Israelis are not confident or not morally confident in themselves in actually pursuing the war. So how much do you think the American populace would be more inclined to support some sort of active war against Iran? So I think while you sort of have this two sides, like I think currently American public right now is pretty much is still pro-Israeli in the sense it doesn't want to see Israel like disappear. It wants to see Israel defended, but also it doesn't want to see more war. It doesn't want to see any actual response. And that's what you see from administration. They will say, yes, we will defend Israel. Yes, we will stand by Israel. But no, we will not even that we won't support Israeli attack on Iran. You don't even hear any mention of any sort of operation, any sort of recognition that America has been at war with Iran for 50 or so years.
Right. You see, since America has been at war, whether we know it or not, America has been at war with the Islamic Republic of Iran for over 40 years. For the last 45 years, acts of war, murders that take out hundreds of American soldiers, mind you, by Iranian proxies and so forth, can happen. And we do nothing, absolutely nothing. Israel, our ally, gets attacked since October 7th, on October 7th, by all these Iranian proxies, and America really does nothing in response, when we ourselves, in terms of self-defense, we should be at war with Iran. We should have been at war with Iran 40 years ago, 20 years ago. And it's like an axiom in American politics. I don't know how it achieved this religious status axiom. We don't want to go to war with Iran. I don't know why. I don't. No matter how many Americans or Israelis get killed by Iran and its proxies, we don't go to war with
And
them.
Americans.
Yeah, Americans and Israelis get killed all the time. For the last 40 years, hundreds of Americans in Israel, thousands, if you include the Israelis, have been killed, and America has done nothing in reply. No, we have let the ball down on our own responsibility to defend our own country and Western civilization generally, frankly, leaving it all on poor Israel to do. So the least we can do is shut up while Israel defends itself. And this is the second time Israel has been hit by strategic ballistic missiles from the nation of Iran against the nation of Israel. This is war. Any nation in this world who tells Israel to pull its punches is saying, Israel, suck it up and die. And if next time the Arrow system doesn't manage, well, then we'll wait for people to die before we take it seriously. No, that's insane. That's America's policy. Well, if more Americans die, then maybe we'll join in. More Americans. Now, since October 7th, Americans have died in attacks by Hezbollah affiliates funded by Iran. So they were waiting for more Americans to die before they do anything. That's their stated policy. Anything. Now, that's insane. When you're being attacked and attacked and attacked and attacked, well, we'll wait for people to die. Same with Israel. You see, Israel really can't defend itself because the Arrow, defensive system was largely successful. No Israelis died, and so therefore Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself from barrage of over 180 tactical ballistic missiles aimed at their direction. I mean, look at the craters they left. If one of these had gotten through and hit a population center, we'd be looking at thousands of casualties. You don't wait for that to happen. That's utterly irresponsible. Israel or America would be responsible for not taking proper action. Obviously, it's the attacker who's directly responsible. But if the defender doesn't take actions to defend himself, which are legitimate and proper, it's on them in part. If we do not attack before Israelis and more Israelis and more Americans get killed by Iran or its proxies, then it's on us too. We are failing to defend ourselves. If we wait for more Israelis or wait for more Americans to die before we take action, how many times are we going to have to wait through an attack which kills Israelis and Americans? It's insane. Utterly insane, and has no understanding of what self-defense is all about, its moral justification. It is deeply immoral. It's evil. It's as evil. Now, let me be as controversial as I can. I know I'm a well-known critic of Christianity. It's as evil as the doctrine of turning the other cheek. It's as evil as the doctrine of submitting to the evildoer. Things that came out of the mouth of Jesus and have been controlling the moral understanding of people in Western civilization for the last 2,000 years. It's wrong. It's evil. You take out the attacker. Otherwise, you are asking for more.
Yeah, and I saw someone in the chat saying Trump assassinated what was the guy's name? Soleimani. And it's sort of like if America was during World War II, they said like, oh, but we assassinated Erwin Rommel. It's like, okay, but like, can you take out the actual regime? It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not criticizing the movement. That was great. That was a good thing to see. That guy deserved to die. But it's absolutely not even close enough to what actually needs to be done. And let's say,
Soleimani was a murderer. He was killed in self-defense, by the way. This man had blood on his hands, American and Israeli blood on his hands. He was a coordinated Iranian aggression throughout the region. He was killed in Iraq, a neighboring country that Iran was aggressively interfering with. So no, and he was killing Americans, killing Israelis whenever he got a chance. Soleimani was killed in rational self-defense by Trump, and he should have done a lot more. So no, Soleimani was not. Soleimani deserved his death many times over, and his death was long overdue.
Also, someone in the chat says, you stepped out of boundary. Why did you bomb Hania in other people's land? No, Iran stepped out of boundary by harboring terrorists. You
Iran
had
funded October 7th. Iran raped. Iran is responsible for all of the atrocities on October 7th. Hania, the leader of Hamas that did this, was in Iran at the time receiving advice, coordination. They're the ones who paid for October 7th in the first place. No, what that comment is just disgustingly evil. It is disgustingly evil, that comment. No, Israel didn't step out of line. It did a modest act of self-defense against the one of the main planners and perpetrators of the atrocities of October 7th, who was back at Mothership Tehran receiving instructions and support.
just quickly, we have a super sticker from Bonnie. Thank you so much. And technically a super chat from Robert, who has been a member for 29 months. So the YouTube members get a free super chat once a month. And he says, must they wait for a huge defense failure a la October 7th before responding? They must respond to the actual attack, not the number of casualties. Yes, that's what you would see in a more rational world. But when it comes to what we have right now is what we heard from Biden: take the win. If your people, or if not enough of your people, get killed on one day, you just don't have the outside. I mean, you have inside, morally you should have. So Netanyahu or Israel should have the moral confidence to do what is necessary. But when it comes to sort of the international opinion, no. Until a lot of your people die, you can't respond.
That is insane. Robert is exactly correct. You've got to disproportionately attack. You've got to make sure, even if Israelis didn't die this time, you've got to make sure a lot of Iranians die. That's the way self-defense works. You know, I tell the story about when I was a little 5-year-old kid, and I did what little 5-year-old brothers do. I hit my older brother, boom, punched him like a little 5-year-old brother will do. And my brother was said something very wise to me. He said, "I'll let you get away with it this time, Jimmy. But if you should ever do that, remember, I'm bigger and older. If you should ever do that again, I will hit you back. Only I can hit back 10 times harder, and I will." And that's the way self-defense has to work. You hit back many times harder, many, many times harder, because they're the aggressor. And this idea that Iran is not the aggressor of October 7th, they were. They funded it, they trained the people for it, they celebrated it, they supported it. And when Hania got killed in Tehran in a guest house, he was there because Iran was the source, the fountainhead, the source of all of that evil. They fund Hezbollah. They fund Hamas. They could have made this not happen at all had they not wanted it to happen. They could have cut off support for those people. They are in control. Iran is the enemy. October 7th was an act of war by Iran against civilization. It's that simple and clear.
We also have a super chat from PC who says, James, I blocked someone, we don't name people. I cannot stand these trolls. I get enough of them on Facebook. So as we always say, we don't block people. The ARCUK doesn't block people unless there is unless they spam. But you as viewers are welcome to block anyone on your side if you don't want to see it. We also have a super chat from Kathy. Thank you so much. Who says, I can help thinking that Israel will respond because Bibi had to know if he took out Hamas and Hezbollah that Iran would respond.
Of course.
Yeah, I think Israel was definitely prepared. There will be, especially since this is not the first time something like this had happened. And when with what Israel did to Hezbollah, I think it's obvious that something was happening. That's why I'm a bit. That's why I think there has to be some plan for Iran, similar as there was to Hezbollah. They knew where everything was, they knew where to hit them, and they responded not quickly, but in a short time period when it came to pretty much dismantling the whole organization. So I think there has to be something similar to Iran. I don't
Well,
get it why we don't have anything yet.
if what I'm told by Western governments like Britain and the United States is true about how close Iran is to getting a nuclear weapon, how close Iran is getting to making 15 nuclear weapons, what is it, weeks away? I mean, depending on the estimate that you get, we're told that they're on the verge of getting nuclear weapons. Now go look at the craters that actually landed in Israel on Tuesday. Go look at those craters and imagine to yourself what those craters would be like had they been armed with nuclear warheads. And now consider Great Britain. Now consider policymakers in Washington, D.C. Now consider my friends throughout the civilized world what that means. No, we are all at risk, at peril. And our governments are letting us down in their primary responsibility of defending our populations in Great Britain and the United States if we do not help take out right now Iran's nuclear capacity. The blood would be on our hands, on the policymakers in Westminster and DC's hands, if Iran gets a nuclear bomb and we can exchange one of those craters that Iran made in Israel yesterday with a nuclear explosion. It's that serious. It's that important. And it's that vital a failure on the part of Western leaders of the, Great Britain and the United States' leadership is dropping the ball in defending their own populations if they do not assist Israel right now in taking out Iran's nuclear facilities.
Yeah, so since we are pretty much out of time, we will continue on the reality show where we'll pretty much continue the similar type of discussion, but we'll focus more on the sort of the broader response. We'll talk about what most recently Israel decided to do about Antonio Guterres. We'll mention the vice presidential debate because Iran has been, I think it was the first question that they asked them. So we'll see what they have responded, as well as many other US politicians and people around the world. So join us for the reality show in just about a minute. We'll see you there. Thank you, James, and bye-bye.
Be safe.